Hello, students. So, students, I think everything is fine. Just confirm it once, and then we can all go ahead and deal with this segment. And sorry for this. Today's unfortunately there was a lot of power cuts and electricity failure, and because of which, in the afternoon, we had to in fact reschedule the lecture. Okay. I will now continue, students, from where we have ended. Students, a very quick recap. We are dealing with right now the topics on the rectification, review, revision, and recovery. I must say, going by the May 23 attempt, these areas of the topic haven't been targeted in the examination. And because that they haven't been targeted in the examination, I strongly, in fact, feel that they would be very critical and they would be very important. And hence I told you in the morning as well that one of the topic has to be there in your exam, one of the concept. But before we were going through that, just this particular concept came, students, and we were discussing at that point of time this power failure happened. I thought that now, because I took this, that something happened, and you never know if this is a kind of a signal that we are getting it, that this could be the area that could be targeted in the examination. You never know. So on that now, students, we have some due dates I have given to all of you, which is as such very confusing to the students, and that is the reason why these due dates are something that they need to be very particular and very careful about it. This due dates revision is very important, students, and therefore don't take it lightly. I will just quickly run through it and we will quickly revise it before I give you the other due dates, before we come across with this particular area of our discussion. So students, if you see very carefully over here, TDS statements which has to be filed on a quarterly basis. The TDS statement, students, that has to be filed on a quarterly basis. In that, the first quarter, please be careful, TDS and TCS comparison is important over here. Whereas in the case of a TDS, the quarterly statement has to be filed, and we all know it is like 31st of July in this particular context, or 31st of the following quarter. That is what we all know. So for 30th of June, 31st of July, 30th of September, 31st of October, 31st of December to 31st of Jan, and the last quarter being 31st of March, we actually have got 2 months, and I already told you why we have got this 2 months concept. TCS statement, students, as such has got only 15 days gap from the relevant quarter. The statement that has to be filed has got only 15 days gap, and this is what the 15 days gap is all about. Finally, students, over here that you have is a TDS payment due date. Now that was about the statement and this was about the payment. What we have said as far as the payment is concerned, 7th of next month, and for the month of March, 30th of April. Now correspondingly, students, be careful. Correspondingly, I have been giving you the amount of the payment which could be in the nature of fee, interest, or penalty as the case may be. Fee, interest, or penalty as the case may be. So far as the TDS statement is concerned, in this context, students, be careful. Fee is what is going to be charged over here. Students, fee is what is going to be charged over here. So accordingly, in this regard, this fee. Now, the one last point, students, I just want to extend on this, because these are the areas of highly students get confused in this case, isn't it? In this context. So in this regard, the fee which has been charged over here, what you are going to speak about it. Is it allowed as deduction, students? Is the deduction allowed of this fees? And the answer is yes. Deduction allowed. Now this deduction, students, is allowed whether under in the normal provision, or in the book profit. In the normal provision or in the book profit. Do you all agree? In the book profit also, we don't have anything which has to disallow the fee part of it. Do you all agree to this one or not? In that particular aspect also, we don't have anything which will disallow this particular part. Fine. Now be careful on this second part. Be careful, students. You don't know the games of the ICI. How the ICI play the game in the examination. You're not aware of it. Now you have to be extremely careful on this part. The second segment, students, which I told you was about what? The TDS payment due date has been given to all of you. And then thereafter, students, what I'm telling to all of you over here is about the interest that will be applicable. Now, all of you are aware what is the amount of interest. One is for the deduction or non-deduction of TDS. This is the amount of interest. And if it is deducted and thereafter there is still delay in deposit, then in that situation, the interest amount would increase to 1.5%. Now, students, this is for the interest part of it, which all of you are aware of it. Now, apart from that, students, is there any penalty which is imposed? What is your take, students, on this one? Indeed, the case. So, penalty, students, penalty that will be imposed. There is one section 271C, or for that matter 221 also, in this context. And the penalty, students, for the default. Which default? Already default has been defined for non-deduction of the TDS or non-deduction but non-deposit. Penalty is maximum up to the TDS default. Penalty is how much? Maximum up to the TDS default. Is that point clear to all of you? Fine, students. This is what 271C or 221 says. If all of you are clear, students, be careful. I told you already. In this case, students, what we are going to do, be careful, students. I already told you. Here in this scenario, you can see that here, students, for interest part only. First, let's talk about the interest part. Tell me, let me check this particular part from all of you. If it is a normal deduction of this interest, let's talk about deduction now, students. The deduction. Now, if it is a normal provision, okay, or if it is a normal provision, or if it is what? Please tell me. One is about the normal provision which I'm talking about it, and another is the book profit calculation. Can you answer me this? What is the implication? You are fortunate, students. I'm not the examiner, because if I would have been the examiner, I would have tested you on these particular points. And don't worry, someone primary having the same sort of a mindset also is doing the similar thing based on some past attempt. Can you tell me what is the treatment in this case as far as the deduction of this interest is concerned? Quickly, students. The treatment of interest. What is your take on this one? Whether the deduction will be allowed in this context, students? For the normal provision first, and then thereafter, students, I'm talking about the book profit calculation. Quickly, students. In this particular context, so the answer to that, students, is, be careful, students. The answer to this particular point is normal provision. It is allowed as deduction. In the normal provision, students, is it allowed as deduction? And the answer is yes. But when it comes to the book profit calculation, is it allowed as deduction, students, for the book profit? And the answer is no. Why is it so? Check the book profit income tax. Herein, check what? Check the income tax addition. Income tax addition point. If you see, students, in this context, the income tax addition point, if you see income tax addition point in the book profit calculation, in the book profit calculation, student, just have a look. If you can just quickly refer it there, when you add income tax, there is an explanation which says this, that income tax will include what? Include even what, students? Any interest which is chargeable under this act. Any interest which is chargeable under this act. And because income tax will include any interest chargeable under this act, therefore what? Therefore this interest will be added. Therefore, students, this interest will be added. So you will add this interest amount in calculating what? In calculating the income tax. Okay, which is actually a part of an income tax as per the book profit, that 115JB definition. So what we have to do then in that scenario, we will have to then, students, even add back the interest amount in calculating the book profit, the interest amount in calculating the book profit. Is that clear to all of you, students? So therefore, when it comes to a book profit amount, since income tax includes interest charged under the act, therefore that interest, which can be any interest, it can be 234 ABC interest, it can be any other interest which is charged under this act, that interest, what we are going to do, we will add back while determining the book profit. Means in a way disallowed, but don't use the word disallowed whenever you talk about the book profit of 115JB. But what you're going to say, we are going to add back while computing what? The book profit calculation. I hope that all of you are clear with this one. And that exactly is the point. If that is the case, students, herein, I proceed further. I hope that all of you are clear on this particular proposition. These are so subtle and minor thing, and nothing can come out, because these are the only thing. Tell me, students, these are the only thing that bothers you on the day of the examination. Isn't it or not? The only area which bothers you in your day of the examination. And that exactly is the point. So this is the ultimate chart, students, which has been prepared for all of you at this point of time. Now I come to the next one, which is point number 3. And sorry, before that we can proceed on the penalty. What about the penalty part, students? If there is a penalty which has been charged, let's talk about a deduction then of this penalty. Let's talk about this deduction then of this penalty. Penalty under what? Under the normal provision. Can you see this? Under the normal provision and under the book profit calculation. Under the book profit calculation. If it is a normal provision, students, then the penalty amount, what we are going to say about the penalty amount? If it is a normal provision, then please tell me, students, what we are going to say about what? About this normal provision. So we are going to say that, students, disallowed. Why? It is a statutory penalty. Because it's a statutory penalty, therefore disallowed. What about for the book profit? As far as the book profit calculation is concerned, whether the penalty which is charged under the act, is it in the nature of income tax? penalty which is charged under the act, because penalty as such doesn't have any independent entry of add back. In the book profit calculation, penalty as such does not have any independent entry as far as the add back is concerned. EGBPI and it is disallowed. I'm talking about this other part. So there you will not find any way, students, that the penalty has been added back separately. So we have to find it whether in the definition of income tax under 115JB, whether penalty is included, just like the way we have discussed for interest charge under the act. Same way, whether penalty is also to be considered as a part of the income tax. Answer is no. There is no such reference that the penalty should also be considered as what? As a part of the income tax. So therefore, in that particular case, penalty will not be, penalty will be a part of book profit adjustment. That is, no addition to be made as it is not in the nature of, no addition to be made as it is not in the nature of income tax. No addition to be made as it is not a part of your income tax. Is that point clear to all of you? Quickly say, students. So students, this is how things has to be looked upon. This is how the things has to be looked upon. I hope that all of you are clear with this one, students. Every one of you. So this is how the things has to be looked upon. Now let's proceed further if you all are ready. Are you all ready, students? I now come to the next particular proposition, students, in this context. And that next particular proposition, students, in this context is what? Point number 4. Which is in equalization levy, students. The equalization levy, students, isn't it? So let's have a look, students. In this case, the equalization levy part, students. Quickly, students. Now, equalization levy, students, you know there are 2 sections in that, and one primarily 166 and 166A, 165 and 165A. So what happens over here, students, is this, that there is in one case monthly payment and in another case there is a quarterly payment. Even that is known to all of you, isn't it? So even those due dates are critical to be known, which should be compared with this TDS part, because that is what I told you becomes highly controversial and highly confusing. Highly controversial and highly confusing, students. And therefore, in this context, if you all see very carefully, students, be careful. So far as the equalization levy is concerned, students, so first and the foremost particular part, students, the point comes is about what is the due date. So we have got, students, 2 particular cases. We have, students, in this particular case, one is the equalization levy of 165, the 166, and another would be the next particular part of the equalization levy. So now here, students, you will have to look into this particular part. And what is that, students? For 165, what is the comparison? And for 165A, what is the comparison? So let's have a look, students, in this regard, in this context. Just confirm whether this audio and video is fine or not on this. Is it fine? Perfect. I'll just take it below. I think that is. Please take this one below. Equalization levy. Payment of equalization levy. Payment of equalization levy. So students, in this particular context, if you all will see what happens in this particular context, be careful. For there is this section of 165 and then there is another section which is 165A. So let's look upon to section 165 first over here. And in that context, this 165 students, as you all are aware, this has to be gone on a monthly basis. So 165, what we say, EL detected during the month, the due date part, during the month shall be paid by 7th of next month. Shall be paid by 7th of next month. Okay. Now for 31st March, is there anything which goes to the month of May? Nothing of that sort happened. Unlike in the that 30th of April, remember 30th of April and then 31st of May, which we discussed about the TDS. Does it happen over here? For 165, doesn't happen, friends. So for the equalization levy deducted in the month of March, the amount has to be paid, students, by when, students? By 7th. In this context, that amount will have to be paid, students, by 7th of next month. Fine. And then thereafter, students, over here, 165A. If it is 165A, students, in this context, then equalization levy to be paid by every e-commerce operator to the credit of central government to the credit of central government for the relevant quarter students by 7th of next month following the relevant quarter into next and for the last quarter by 31st of March. And for the last quarter by 31st of March. Is that one clear to all of you? So this is how it has to be considered in this context. Now, what about the case which you need to discuss? If there's a then, as you all know, students, in this particular case, if they don't do this default, so if there is a default, students, then in that case, interest is common, which is 1% per month or part thereof. 1% per month or part thereof. Now, whether in this case, students, the interest particular part which has been there, the interest particular part, students, this is the point. The next over here in this context is the penalty. Penalty. Now, so far as the penalty is concerned, students, for 165 is different. 165A it is different. For 165 students, the penalty that you all know in this case is rupees 1000 per day is the amount of penalty. And when it comes to 165A students, the penalty that needs to be looked upon in this case is the amount of equalization levy that the e-commerce operator has failed to pay. Has failed to pay. So 1000 rupees per day, and the next one, students, is the amount of the equalization levy that the e-commerce operator has failed to pay, students. So that becomes the case, students, so far as the amount of penalty is concerned, isn't it? And that exactly the point, students. That exactly is the point. So students, this is the point which is to be considered over here. All of you are clear with this one? Now, students, one last point I just wanted to share with all of you over here. Point number 5 about furnishing of statement. Furnishing of statement, students. Now, so far as the statement is concerned, over here, what we say over here in this context? So, students, in this particular context, be careful. So far as furnishing of statement is concerned, whether it is 165 or whether it is 165A, herein, annual statement needs to be filed. Annual statement, students, has to be filed, and this annual financial statement should be filed for each financial year, and that has to be filed, students, on or before 30th of June 30th of June of the immediate following financial year. Immediate following financial year. Okay, so this is a time limit, students. In this context, for filing a statement, annual statement, students, is go though. And then thereafter, students, over here, default if it happens. For this, there is interest, and again, then there is a penalty. The students, what exactly it would be in this regard? So, students, in this context, for the financial statement, annual statement, sorry, this is only penalty. Interest, any case, is not there. Interest already, it is aborted. So, students, as far as the penalty is concerned, how much is the penalty? This is a simple one, rupees 100 for each day. Rupees 100 for each day, during which the failure continues. Is that point clear to all of you? Rupees 100 for each day during which the failure continues. The next particular point, students, is what? Point number 6. Just write for the last one, students. I'm writing it over here, and this is the AIR, Annual Information Written. And as you all know, students, as far as the AIR is concerned, due date I'm just writing for that. You have to file by 31st of May. Isn't it? 31st of May of the following financial year. 31st of May, students, of the next financial year. And students, you please take a note of this penalty. You already know 271 FA in this case, and there is a 2 rate. Please copy down this one. All of you will do this one. 500 rupees for what period and 1000 rupees from what period. That is something that you can deal with it in this case. So it is from 1st of June till the time allowed in the notice sent to file the statement or the actual filing of the statement, whichever is earlier, and 1000 rupees. This is per day, by the way. These are the rate which is per day rate. That is after the expiry of the time allowed in the notice till the date of actual filing of the AIR. Till the date of the actual filing of the AIR. This is the biggest particular, students, point which we have now consolidated and we have completed in this regard. Biggest point, students, in this context, isn't it? So therefore, in this regard, students, over here, you can just imagine this particular point. Am I covering the entire particular syllables in the fast track? Almost in the fast track. So students, over here now, I hope that every one of you are now clear with this one. So this is a blessing in disguise for all of you on the day of the examination to refer this charts on the due dates. Remember this, otherwise this becomes so confusing to really handle this scenario. Can we now proceed on our discussion? Back to this rectification and all. So students, as you all are aware, so far as the rectification point is concerned, what exactly is the scenario? Rectification point, if you see students, the ground so far as the rectification is concerned, quickly we will run through the same. It is the mistake which is apparent from record is what can be rectified. It is the mistake which is apparent from record is what can be rectified. All of you agree to this one? And then thereafter, what can be rectified is the order or even the intimation or even the statements. The statements are, these are the statements. Apart from that, students, now the only question which is there and quite important so far as 154 is concerned is this particular point. What constitute the apparent mistake, students? What constitute the apparent mistake is one of the very hot favorite question which the ICI keeps asking again and again. So what constitutes the apparent mistake, students? In this particular case, what they have said is this, that the jurisdiction of any authority under the act to make an order. See, please be careful. Apparent means something which is obvious, something which cannot be disputed, something which is patent, glaring, for which there cannot be any two opinions. These are something which is known as apparent. All of you agree to this one? This is what is known as apparent. Now, therefore, students, in this particular context, if you all see this particular point, in this particular point, students, what happens now? Question therefore is, now we will take across the similar point. In the context of this one, students, that's these two, students, the most important, these are the LDR type, last revision. If there is any subsequent decision made by the Supreme Court, if there is any subsequent decision, students, which is made by the Supreme Court, say for example, in the AO's order, it was allowed as deduction. In the AO's order, students, it was allowed as deduction. And somewhere later on, in someone else's case, we had what, students? We had something which is an apparent mistake, which was because of the Supreme Court judgment. Supreme Court judgment said that no, this expenditure is to be disallowed. So if the Supreme Court gives a judgment, students, that the particular expenditure is disallowed, can we therefore say that the matter is settled? Can there be now any two opinion? And the answer is no. Another point which is very important to be answered in this case is that, supposing, students, in 2023, the Supreme Court says that the expenses is disallowed. In 2023, the Supreme Court is saying that the expenses is disallowed. So therefore, the question to all of you is that from 2023, the expenditure will be said to be disallowed. From 2023, the expenditure will be said to be disallowed. Is that what it will mean? That now, because today the judgment has came, therefore from today the expenditure is disallowed. That is what it will mean? Answer is no. Students, please be careful. Supreme Court does not. Supreme Court never ever makes a law. The role of a Supreme Court is to interpret the law as it stood from day one. So whatever was the law as on day one, this is the real interpretation, which therefore mean if an expenditure is disallowed by the Supreme Court, then it was disallowed right from day one. And if it was disallowed right from day one, any particular order which has allowed the deduction therein, any particular order which has allowed the deduction therein, can we therefore say that there is an apparent mistake in that particular order? Can we therefore say that there is an apparent mistake in that particular order? And the answer is yes. And the answer is yes, we can say. Why? Because nobody can argue or dispute whether you are feeling good or feeling bad. Nobody is asking. In the 3 hours examination time, are you, and somebody is asking how you are feeling? Anyone is asking how you are feeling now? And the answer is no. That exactly is the point. So whether you are feeling good or whether you are feeling bad, based on Supreme Court decision, you are bound by that. And since there is no two opinion that is there, we will say what? We will say that the judgment of the Supreme Court probably can make any earlier order to have a mistake which is apparent. And based on the judgment of the Supreme Court, can the AO can reopen the case to rectify the mistake? And the answer is yes. The AO can reopen the case to rectify the mistake because the mistake is apparent. Now, retrospective amendment of law. Same thing also happens for the retrospective amendment of law. What do you mean by this retrospective amendment of law? Meaning thereby the law will stand as on that particular day. Which date? The date from which the law has been amended retrospectively. The date from which the law has been amended retrospectively. That is what we will say as far as the retrospective amendment is concerned. So it means that if tomorrow a law is amended and they say it is disallowed, an expenditure is disallowed, based on that amendment, can I then go ahead and rectify all the order? Rectify all the order in which the expenditure was allowed? Answer is yes. And why is it so? Because of the rectification, there cannot be any two opinion. If it says that it is disallowed, it is disallowed right from that day. Which day? From the day from which the rectification has taken place or has become effective, as the case may be. I hope that every one of you are clear with this one. Fine, students. Now coming on this particular part is about the doctrine of partial merger. The doctrine of partial merger, students. Now, what exactly it is, students? Because this partial merger is going to come also in the case of a revision. So let me quickly run through this particular partial merger concept. So far as partial merger is there, students, in this context. Partial merger. Supposingly, there was an AO's order of the AO under section 143. So there was an order of the AO, students, under section 143, and in that order, students, there were 3 items which was there. Okay. Now, in respect of 2 items, students, what has happened is that in respect of 2 items, students, the appeal has been filed. Appeal has been filed before the CIT appeals. Appeal has been filed before the CIT appeals. Is that clear? Now, what has happened, students, in this case, during the pendency, students, of the appeal, the AO notices that, what the AO notices? The AO notices that the entire order the entire order is having mistake, is having an apparent mistake. Is having what, students? An apparent mistake. An apparent mistake. Okay. So the question is ready, students. What is the question? Whether the AO can rectify the entire order. Whether the AO can rectify the entire order. What is your take, students, on this? Can the AO rectify in this case the entire order? To that, students, the answer is no. Why? DOPM applies. What is it full form of DOPM? Doctrine of partial merger applies. What is this partial merger? Partial merger means that that portion of the order, students be careful, that portion of the order which has been made as a subject matter of appeal. Again, I am repeating, that portion of the order which has been made as a subject matter of an appeal, that cannot be rectified, which means that only the matter which is not been made as a subject matter of an appeal, which is not been made as a subject matter of an appeal, can be rectified. So which is that matter which has been made as a subject matter of an appeal? A and B. So A and B has been made as a subject matter of an appeal. So in this particular context, students, A and B has been made as subject matter of appeal, and hence can be, cannot be rectified, since it is now merged with the jurisdiction of the CIT appeal. The AO can only rectify, item C, which is not a subject matter of appeal. Which is not a subject matter of appeal. Which is not a subject matter of an appeal, students. I hope that all of you have now copied this particular point. On that note, students, I am proceeding it further. If you all are done with this, let's proceed further, students. Can we proceed further, students, now? So let's start over here, students. So students, if you see over here in this context, please have a look, students. All of you. Dakshi. Now, point number 4. Point number 4, students, is in respect of what? So far as, students, point number 4 is concerned, what it says is that in this context, amendment may be a suo motu, or the same may be brought to the notice by the SSC or the director, meaning thereby this rectification that we are talking about it. This rectification that we are talking about it, students, that can be a suo motu rectification, or it could be brought to the notice of the SSC, means as the case may be. By the income tax authority himself they can do a rectification, or by the SSC bringing the notice before the income tax authority that there is a mistake in the order and the mistake is an apparent mistake, so kindly do the necessary rectification. Okay, that is the point. Now here, students, be very careful. One thing which has been there, the opportunity of being heard to be given to the SSE. So if the rectification, if students, the rectification will enhance the liability of the SSE, if the rectification will enhance the liability of the SSE, in that particular case, whether the SSE needs to be given an opportunity of being heard by the income tax authority who is doing the rectification, and the answer is yes. The opportunity of being heard has to be given. Is that clear to all of you friends? No doubt about that. So yes, that opportunity has to be given in this context. And finally, students, the last point which is there is on the time limit part. Finally, students, the last point is there on the time limit part. Here, students, only what I want is that all of you will just try to highlight this part. 4 years from the end of the financial year. 4 years from the end of the financial year in which the order sought to be amended was passed. Only this particular point I just need a highlight in this context. 4 years from the end of the financial year in which the order sought to be amended was passed. The most important part is this one. Order sought to be amended was passed. This is the game. The order sought to be amended was passed. This phrase I will do an interpretation when I do with you section 263. So in section 263 at that point of time, I will do the necessary interpretation of this particular phrase. Which phrase? Order sought to be amended. Is that clear in this context, students? That is it. Only that much is required. So whatever we have discussed, students, that shall suffice. Now let's come back to our appeal part where this concept arose. Be careful, students, all of you. We were discussing about this particular part, students. All of you agree to this particular thing, isn't it? Now, in this particular context, be careful. Now, students, one thing again, I am repeating this point. All of you will have to be very careful on this part. And what is that? The rectification that we are talking is done by an income tax authority. I was very conscious when I was speaking this part. The rectification can be done by whom? By an income tax authority who has passed the order. If there is a mistake which is an apparent mistake in that particular order, if there is a mistake which is an apparent mistake in that particular order, then yes, the income tax authority who has passed that particular order is going to rectify the same. So the one who rectify is the person who has passed the order. Please therefore don't use the word assessing officer will rectify the mistake. Not necessarily. Income tax authority can have the commissioner of income tax, the joint commissioner of income tax. These are also the person, and if these are the person who are the one who passes the order, and subsequently in their order if there is any apparent mistake which is getting identified, then what we are going to say that those apparent mistake can be rectified by these authorities by themselves. By these authorities by themselves. So tell me then in that process, students, whether the CIT appeal, students, whether the CIT appeal in that case, is he also an income tax authority? Quickly, students, what is your take on that? Whether the CIT appeal, students, in that case, is he also an income tax authority? Yes, he is also an income tax authority. He is also, students, an income tax authority. And because that he is also an income tax authority, you can say that for CIT appeal, section 154 has been referred for. For CIT appeal, students, section 154 has been referred for. And what they are suggesting to you that under 154, suo motu, the CIT appeal, same thing, 4 years, the same point has been repeated over here. So is the CIT appeal an income tax authority? Yes. So a CIT appeal who passes his own order, if subsequently if he finds that there is any apparent mistake, if there is any apparent mistake in their order, then can the CIT appeal, being the income tax authority, can the CIT appeal, being the income tax authority, can they rectify the order? And the answer is yes, they can. Yes, they can, students. I hope that all of you are clear with this one. Okay, but what about the ITAT, students? What about the ITAT? Can we say the same thing so far as ITAT is concerned? What about the ITAT? Can we say the same thing, students, so far as the ITAT is concerned? To that, the answer is no. As far as the ITAT is concerned, we cannot say the same thing, students. Is that point clear to all of you? Hey, students, so far as the ITAT is concerned, we cannot say the same particular point for them. We cannot say the same particular point for them. Why? Because they are not an income tax authority, and therefore the power of rectification is specifically provided to the ITAT, not under 154 but under a separate section. Which section? 254. So the section that we referred some time back was 154, whereas ITAT, not being an income tax authority, the power of rectification has been given to them separately under section 254. Under section 254. And can you see over here, students, section 254, what it says? Within 6 months from the end of the month, within 6 months from the end of the month in which the order was passed by the ITAT. If it is a suo motu this thing. Why, students? So within 6 months from the end of the month in which the order was passed by the ITAT can do the rectification. By the way, the ground of rectification is the same. Students, the ground of the rectification is same. It does not change, huh? Anywhere, whenever there is a word rectification under the income tax law, the ground of rectification will remain the same. Keep this point always in mind. Whenever there is a concept of rectification in income tax law, then the ground of rectification will always remain the same. And please tell me, what is the ground? The ground happens to be that there has to be a apparent mistake from the record, and then and only then there would be a rectification proceedings that would be allowed in this context. Rectification proceedings, students, would be allowed in this particular context. I hope that every one of you are clear with this particular one. Is that point clear to all of you? And that exactly is the point, students. So this is what it is. Now coming to this particular part. Now, can you see for the High Court? Can you see for the High Court, students? And the Supreme Court? For these two also there is a tick mark. Means they can also rectify their own order. And students, everyone should get a chance to rectify, isn't it? Because it is human to make an error. And therefore rectification is embedded in any process where there is a human intervention which is involved. And therefore even the High Court and the Supreme Court, if they find that their order has got any apparent mistake, then can they also rectify their own order? And the answer is yes. And the answer is yes, students. Now we go to our next point, which is in respect of the power to review, students. The power to review. Now when I say the power to review, students, over here, what I find it in this context, in this scenario, power to review, students, if you see very carefully, there is a cross mark for these two. There is a cross mark for these two in this context. And then there's a tick mark for the next two in this situation, which implies is that CIT appeal, can they review their order? Answer is no. ITAT, can they review their order? Again, the answer is no. High Court and the Supreme Court, can they review the order? And the answer is yes. So therefore, the first and the most important question that arises now is that, what do you mean by the term review? And how different is the term review from the term rectification? Because you can see this, that whereas the power of rectification is given to all the four, which is CIT appeal, ITAT, High Court and Supreme Court. But when it comes to power to review, then it is only given to the two authority, which is High Court and the Supreme Court. High Court and the Supreme Court. The other two don't have this particular power. The other two, students, don't have this particular power, which is CIT appeals and the ITAT. CIT appeals and the ITAT, students. I hope that every one of you are clear with this one. Now, the question therefore is the difference part. Students, be careful. I'm talking about, telling you about it. The power of review is much wider as compared to the power of rectification. Why? Because when you talk about, students, when you talk about the case of rectification, when you talk about rectification, then it has to be on the basis of an apparent mistake. If there is an apparent mistake, only then the rectification can be made. But when it comes to the review power, students, in that particular case, it is not on the basis of the rectification. Be careful. It is not only on the basis of what? Rectification, on the basis of any apparent mistake, but it goes beyond that. What is that? So I told you something, that students, what did I told you? That so far as rectification is concerned, it will be done only when there is an apparent mistake. When you have the word apparent mistake, what is apparent? Apparent means obvious. There cannot be any two views on that. Very glaring. That is what is known as apparent mistake. So when you talk about the power of review, students, what does it imply? It means this, that in the review case, students, what happens? I am put up with some new evidences, new data, new finding, and I'll take a look on that which was not available with me earlier. New evidence, new data, new findings, and I'm having an opportunity to look it now further, and based on that, I now think that yes, something has gone wrong in my judgment, and based on that, I am reviewing my order based on those new particular data or new particular set of circumstances, or maybe the evidences, as the case may be, which may emerge in the hands of whom? In the hands of the two authority. Which are the two authority? High Court and the Supreme Court. They only can review their order with some new findings, not the same finding, students. They cannot see the same thing and then change their mind. No, because otherwise this will never stop. Today I'm watching this particular, I'm seeing this pen, I feel that no, this is white color. Then tomorrow I will see, oh, it is not white color, it is gray color. Then I feel that no, this is gray color. Third day again I'm going to see this pen, then I will say, oh no, I think it looks somewhere blackish. So if you are seeing the same thing again and again primarily, and then you're keeping changing your version, today you feel this, today there is a weather is fine, let's go out and play cricket. No, it is raining, let's be at home, who will go, isn't it? So those things primarily, you can't keep looking into the same particular evidence and keep changing your mind. So what you are supposed to do? In this particular case, you will have to find out, students, something new evidence to support you, so to say something new. So reappreciate of the new findings, reappreciate of the new data, reappreciate of the new evidence, and then you can see that the order which you pass requires some correction or not. If you think that yes, the order requires correction, do that. Now this review power is available only for whom? With the High Court and the Supreme Court. The review power is not there for whom? For the CIT appeal or the ITAT. Again, this becomes an issue. Why is it that the CIT appeal and the ITAT doesn't have the power of review, and this is only reserved for High Court and Supreme Court? What is the reason for that? In this case, students, the reason is very clear. Be careful. The order of the High Court, students, be careful. Huh? The order of the High Court is binding order. All of you agree? The order of the High Court, students, is a binding order. Binding on whom? On the entire state. If Karnataka High Court give a judgment, entire state of Karnataka will be bound by the judgment. If Madras High Court gives this judgment, the entire state of Tamil Nadu. Bombay High Court gives it, entire state of Maharashtra and Goa will be bound by the judgment. And if Supreme Court also gives it, entire India. So just imagine the binding effect of those orders. And hence, if supposedly, if there by any chance there is a wrong order given by these court, which court? High Court or the Supreme Court, as the case may be, then you can just imagine, because of the binding effect, it will have a serious repercussions. It will have a serious repercussion, students. And that is the reason why, students, that is the reason why this power is only meant for whom? Only meant for High Court and Supreme Court. What about, students, the order passed by the CIT appeal or the ITAT? Is the order of the CIT appeal or the ITAT, is it binding on everyone? Is the order of the CIT appeal or the ITAT, is it binding on everyone? Answer is no. The order of the CIT appeal or the order of the ITAT, students, is not binding on everyone. Then it is only binding, it is only applicable in the case of the SSC, in whose case the decision was being given. That is it. So in your case, if ITAT gives a judgment, it is not applicable to me, even if the facts are the same. It is not applicable in me. But you are, say, in Mumbai. I am also in Mumbai. Bombay High Court gives the judgment in your case, and my matter is same as that of yours, then whatever is the judgment of the Bombay High Court will become binding on me. It will become binding on me, students, and that's exactly what this particular point would be all about. And that is the reason why exclusivity of review is given only to these particular things. So one thing, students, in this case, I will just dictate one important point. Can you just copy down this particular part? One important statement which you need to write in this case, students, which you need to write in this case. For review part, students. The power of review is distinct from the power of rectification, is distinct from the power of the rectification. Full stop. The review power is much wider in scope, as compared to the rectification power. Full stop. To exercise this power, the High Court and the Supreme Court, must look into new set of evidence, datas and records which was not available before, when the order was passed earlier, which was not available or referred before, right? Like this, which was not available or referred before when the order was passed. Full stop. The So just delete the word the, right? Instead, students, please write. Reappreciating, reappreciating the same facts, the same facts and the record, and the record is not permissible, is not permissible while exercising the review power, while exercising the review power. Full stop. Fine, students. Now, students, we are going on the next one, which is the power of recall. The recall power, students, which has been there in this case. Now, so far as the power to recall the order. Now, do you know when the orders are recalled? When the orders are recalled, students, you may be aware of this one. Recalling the order, students, happens when the order is what? Order is ex parte. So when the order is ex parte at that particular point of time, students, the order is subject to recall. The order is subject to recall, students. That exactly is the point. So therefore, over here, if you see very carefully, which we are talking about it, what is ex parte? Ex parte would mean that without the SSC presence, means SSC, the date of hearing was given, and on that date of the hearing, the SSC could not present himself either in person or through his representative, and because of that, the court have passed an ex parte order. The court has passed what? An ex parte order. That ex parte order means without the presence of the parties or the SSC, the order was passed. This is known as ex parte order. Now, if supposedly subsequently, if the SSC makes an application, students, that and gives a justifiable reason for not being present on that particular day when the hearing was scheduled, gives a justifiable reason for not being present on that particular day when the order was being passed, when the court has given the judgment, or when the hearing was scheduled, and if the court is satisfied that yes, the reason for not being present on that day is indeed justifiable, in that particular case, students, in that particular case, we will say that the court has the power to recall what? Recall that ex parte order. So whatever was the ex parte order which was being passed, that can be recalled. This is what it means. Recall of the ex parte order. It means what? That first, what is ex parte? Without the presence of the SSC. Thereafter, what happens? SSC makes an application and tells the reason why he could not be there on the day when the hearing was scheduled. And if the court finds that yes, what the SSC is saying is having a merit, having a reason, the non-appearance on that day was neither willful nor deliberate on the part of the SSC, what they will do, they can recall the order. Okay, recall their ex parte order and the hearing would be given afresh. Now over here there is one important point, students. And what is the important point, students? See, the ex parte order, students, is just like what? Just like your best judgment assessment order. The ex parte order, students, is just like what? Your best judgment assessment order, students. Is that part clear to all of you? Now in that case, students, when I say it is just like your best judgment assessment order, do you know what it implies? What does it imply, students? Indeed, in this particular context, students, when we say that this is case of a best judgment assessment order, so can an ex parte order which has been passed, can that order be whimsical? Whimsical means as per your own discretion. Please be careful, students. Just like what we discussed for the best judgment assessment order, in 144, same way an ex parte order. Now, who can pass the ex parte order? First of all, it can be passed by the ITAT, it can be passed by the High Court, or it can be passed by the Supreme Court. ITAT, High Court and Supreme Court can pass the ex parte order. Now, what is the point, students? Whether it is a best judgment assessment order or an ex parte order, or what? An ex parte order. So whether it is a best judgment assessment order or it is an ex parte order, what you will say, students? What you are going to say? It has to be on the basis of materials and the record. Materials and the record taken into account. The order cannot be whimsical. Whimsical means as per my own whims and fancies. So the order cannot be whimsical. In your 144, if you see your chart, students, it is already being mentioned there. After taking into account the scope part, if you see, isn't it? That is what best judgment assessment. Same is also with the ex parte order. I hope that this part is well taken by all of you. With that now, students, we come to our next particular finding, students, over here. And what exactly it is? The case of revision. The revision of the order, students. Be careful, students, now. All of you. Now, before we go to the revision of this order, students, mark this to be an important for MCQ. This is an important for the MCQ part. Can you see that? This is an important point, students, as far as your MCQs are concerned. And what is this? See, students, as you may be aware of the fact that the department, actually now you will be surprised to know that 60 to 70% of the appeal are filed by the department only before the ITAT, High Court and the Supreme Court. So the maximum appeals which are being made are made from the end of the department itself. And please understand what happens in this. This actually results into a huge cost for litigation, because then department, in any case, they will hire their own lawyer, and the lawyer is already in the empanelment of the income tax department, and what happens is that they keep roping these people for the appeal purpose, and accordingly the cost of appeal is very high. And knowing the fact that the cost of appeal is very high, therefore there is a monetary limit that has been put up, that look, if you want to go for an appeal, then this has to be the threshold limit. Only then the appeal can be filed. So what is the threshold limit, students, in this case? If you see the threshold limit, students, in this particular case, this is what it is. Please have a look, students. So far as the ITAT is concerned, if the department has to be filing an appeal further, then the tax effect, can you see this? The tax effect, students, should exceed what? Exceed more than rupees 50 lakhs. Tax effect should exceed what, students? The 50 lakhs, students. In this context, we will say, sir, what is this tax effect? In a simple word, students, I'll just say it is nothing but the additional amount. It is what? Additional amount of tax to be recovered. Additional amount of tax sought to be recovered. Sought to be recovered. Additional amount of the tax sought to be recovered. So if the department, students, wants to go to the ITAT, then how much should be the tax limit? It should be more than 50 lakhs. If the High Court wants, if the department wants to go to the High Court, then the tax effect should be how much, students? Should be again more than 1 crore. And last but not the least, if the Supreme Court, if the department wants to go to the Supreme Court, then the tax effect in this case is how much? More than rupees 2 crores. More than rupees 2 crores. So this is what it is in this regard. That is what this tax effect is all about. Now, in this context, students, what exactly we are going to say? Please be careful on this particular point. So over here, students, this is what we are now going to say. And let me ask you one question before we proceed. Students, this is the limit for whom? For the income tax department. Tell me one thing then. What about the SSC? Is this limit applicable for the SSC also? That if the SSC has to file an appeal before the ITAT or before the High Court or before the Supreme Court, then do they have to look into this monetary limit? That only if this tax effect is exceeding this limit, only then the SSC also can only make this. SSC could also file the appeal only if the monetary threshold limit has been breached. Is that the case? Answer is no, students. So far as the SSC is concerned, this limit is not to be considered. It is to be considered only by whom? By the department. I hope that all of you are clear with this one. Every one of you. Congratulations, MR. Yeah, I remember, MR. You were there in that fast track batch. So good to know. Hearty congratulations. Yeah, Sachin, your observation is correct. And do well, MR, do well in life further and make your parents and everyone around proud. Okay? God bless you. My best wishes for your further journey. So, students, in this particular context, students, yes, this limit is not applicable to the SSC. It is only to be considered for the department. That is it. So if supposingly the tax effect is less than this 50 lakhs, 1 crore or 2 crores as the case may be, the SSC definitely can file the appeal. So this limit is not to be considered for the SSC. It is only for department. Now, couple of points, students, are very important for you to consider it. You just be very careful about this. Couple of points. The first and the foremost point, students, is about the first and the foremost point in this particular context is this, that here, whether the SSC's case, the department cannot go for a further appeal. Why they could not go for a further appeal? Because of this tax effect not exceeding the threshold limit. Fine. Does it mean that because of the department could not go for the appeal on account of the tax effect not exceeding the monetary limit, does it mean that the department has accepted their defeat? Or does it mean that the department has accepted the position of the order which could not be appealed further because of the tax effect not going beyond the monetary limit? Does it mean that the department has accepted the defeat? And the answer is no, student. And the answer is no. So this is not what it will mean. The department could not pursue further because of the tax effect not going beyond the monetary limit. But that does not mean that this position has now been accepted by the department. So supposingly, in my case, they could not go. They have disallowed. They have in the AO has disallowed, say, item A. I went for the appeal, and then in appeal it was held that no, it is allowed. Now expenditure A was allowed in my case. Thereafter what happened? They want to now go to ITAT, but ITAT, unfortunately, the tax effect is not going above that 50 lakhs, and because the tax effect is not going beyond the 50 lakhs, they could not pursue the appeal. But in your case, on the same expenditure A, because the volume or the amount was so huge of expense A in your case, that if they will go to the appeal to the ITAT, then definitely it will have the necessary tax effect limit of 50 lakhs or above 50 lakhs. So therefore, because they could not go in my case, does it mean that in your case they also cannot? The answer is no. Because they could not go in my case, that does not mean that they have accepted the position. In your case, can they take it further if they have the tax effect in their hand? Answer is yes. Definitely, students, they can go if they have got the tax effect, students, in their hand. So that is the scenario. Similarly, in the subsequent year, students, in the subsequent year, supposingly same expenditure A. Now my expenditure A claim was huge because of the huge volume. The expenditure A claim was very huge in my next year assessment, and now they are disallowing it, and now they want to take it further. And if I see the tax effect, now the tax effect is there. But can I then stop the department to tell them that no, you cannot take the case further, you cannot take my case further because of this reason? Can I say so? Answer is no, student. Answer is no. I cannot say this particular point anymore, that you cannot go in my case because of this particular reason. This is not possible, because in the first year they could not go because of the tax effect not there, hence they cannot pursue it further. But if in the subsequent year, if in my own case they do have that necessary tax effect going beyond that limit, definitely they can pursue the case further. I hope that all of you are clear with this one now. This is one. Secondly, students, one point which I just wanted to share with all of you. Students, are you aware of this particular point? Many a time, students, do you know, in the High Court, as you know, High Court and the Supreme Court, they have the binding effect. Both the High Court as well as the Supreme Court, students, they have the binding effect. Just now we have discussed this particular point, isn't it? Supposingly, students, in the Supreme Court of India, there is a case going on. Case going on for what? That for a particular, say, expenditure B, to be allowed or not. This case is going on before the Supreme Court of India. Now, in my case also, the same issue is there. Okay, that Supreme Court case which is going on, it is not in my case, it is in someone else's case, but in my case also the same issue is there. But my case has not gone to the High Court or Supreme Court. So therefore the question is this, that now what will happen? If again they will go with this, then we know what is going to happen. This matter again, it's the same matter. So what is the use of unnecessarily again going for an appeal? Let's wait for that judgment to come. And once that judgment is there, thereafter what we can do? We can implement that judgment in our existing cases. Wherever the cases are similar, we can implement that. So what needs to be done? It's need a consensus between whom? Between the department and the SSE. And if both agrees to the fact that the case before, say, High Court or the Supreme Court, as the case may be, because that will become binding, that case is similar, number one. The case is what? Similar to what the SSE's case is. And they agree that let that judgment as and when delivered to be applied in their cases as well. If they agree to that effect, then students, it's a win-win situation. What is a win-win situation? It will have lot of huge litigation cost brought it down. And that is one of the very important point and quite logical and quite wiser point, that if both the SSE and department agrees that if a similar case is going on in the High Court or in the Supreme Court and they agree to apply that case in their particular matter, in their particular assessment, then based on that, what happens, students? No appeal would be done in the SSE's case, no appeal would be done in the SSE's case, and whatever judgment that will be pronounced by the court, that judgment would be rolled out to the SSE's case. Is that clear to all of you, students? So that is the point that you should always keep in mind. With that now, students, you are into this last segment, and which is about the revision of the order by whom? By the Commissioner of the Income Tax. Now there are two sections of the revision, students. One is section 263 and then another is section 264. Two sections are there, students, 263 and 264. We are analyzing 263. I am just going to pitch for 264 on a broader note. You can just read the remaining particular points and that should be all. Now, so far as students section 263 is concerned, keep this particular point in mind. Students, so far as this section 263 is concerned, be careful, students. What happens is this. In the case of section 263, students, see, up till now, whatever we have been discussing, students, up till now, whatever we have been discussing, the discussion was all about what? The appeal that is there. So all our discussion, students, was based on what? On the appeal remedy, or may I say like this, students, remedy for the SSC. If the SSC is aggrieved and all against the AO order, then these are the remedies which is available. So whatever discussion that has taken place was all in respect of students. What is the remedy which is available? What is the remedy which is available? All of you agree to this one? Now the main point, students, over here is this. Please be careful, students, what I am going to say now. The main point, students, over here is this point. That in those cases where, students, in those particular cases where department is aggrieved against the AO's order, then if the department is aggrieved, students, department is aggrieved against the order of the AO, then what could be done in this scenario? Then what could be done, students? Can the CIT then fight an appeal against the AO versus CIT? Such name of the case law have you came across up till now? AO versus CIT, and the answer is no. So therefore, what is the remedy available in this case? So the remedy which is available, if the department is aggrieved against the AO's order, the remedy is that of revision under section 263. Revision under section 263. Now, what is this procedure of the revision, students, under section 263? This is the procedure. Be careful, students, all of you. This is your procedure. So here, supposing, students, AO has passed the order. AO has passed an order. And order under various sections are there. Say 143 or 144, whatever it be. Okay. Once the order has been passed, thereafter, students, what happens? Now, say for example, students, over here, say on item A, B and C. Item A, B and C, AO has passed the order. Thereafter, students, what happens? The CIT shall examine the record. Now, what do you mean by term record here? So there is a definition of recorder. Be careful. Record means those evidence available, before the CIT, at the time of his examination. Record means those evidence available before the CIT at the time of his examination. Record means those evidence available before the CIT at the time of his examination. Is that part clear to all of you? Those evidence available before the CIT at the time of his examination. That is what is record. And now what happens? If I'll write about truth. If the CIT, after examining the record, the record, comma, is of the opinion that the order of the AO, what is this order of the AO, students? Point number A is erroneous or deemed erroneous, and point number B, PIR. I'm writing short form, students, you can write full form. What is PIR? Prejudicial to the interest of revenue. PIR, students, is prejudicial to the interest of revenue. So the order of the AO is erroneous and it is prejudicial to the interest of revenue. Then what they can do? They can, students, in this case, issue the show cause notice under section 263. Under section 263, students. To whom? To the SSC. So issue of what? The show cause notice. To whom show cause notice is issued? To the SSC. That exactly is the point. Issue the show cause notice under section 263 to the SSC. Now once the notice has been issued to the SSC, obviously, students, what happens in this case? Once the notice has been issued, students, to the SSC, obviously the proceedings will start. So can I say therefore over here, notice issued, proceeding starts. Notice issued, proceeding starts. Which proceedings, students? The revisionary proceedings. Proceeding will start. The revisionary proceeding is now started. Isn't it? That exactly the point. Fine. Now, before I go further, students, some important aspect probably over here, which is also already given in your notes, but I just wanted to discuss with this particular part. Now, students, in this particular case, students, we are discussing basically this erroneous part. We are discussing, students, basically this part which is of the erroneous, isn't it? Now, when you talk about the one which is erroneous, now the next question that arises is equally very important. Students, next question that arises is equally important. Supposing, students, two opinions in this case. If two views of possible, if two views, students, were possible, okay, and AO went with one of the views while passing the order. I'll give you one example. In this case, be careful, students. This is already given on the left hand side, so I'm not writing the entire thing, but just keep in mind this particular concept. So if two views are possible, students, or it was possible, like say for example, students, the SSC is of Mumbai, the AO is also of Mumbai. Now this was in respect of expenditure number C. This was in respect of expenditure number C. Now they were Bombay based, Mumbai based. Now Gujarat High Court has said in someone else case, Gujarat High Court has said what? That the expenditure C is disallowed. That is Gujarat High Court judgment. Whereas Karnataka High Court says that, students, expenditure C has to be allowed as deduction. Karnataka High Court says that expenditure C is allowed as deduction. So Gujarat says disallowed. Karnataka says allowed as deduction, isn't it? One is disallowed, another is allowed in this context. Now, I, being the AO of Mumbai, for the SSC of Mumbai, I am taking the Karnataka High Court judgment. In which case, it says it is allowed, so I have allowed it. But the CIT under 263, they say that no, Mr. AO, your order is erroneous, because it looks that the order which is passed by the Gujarat High Court is more rational, more logical, and therefore what? Your order is erroneous, and hence I am revising your order by giving the show cause notice to the SSC. So is this revision on the part of the CIT justified, students? What is your take? Is this revision on the part of the CIT, is it justified? And the answer is no. The reason is because two views are possible, students, in this case, and if the AO has taken one view and the CIT wants to go with another view, it cannot be said that the order of the AO is erroneous, and hence no revision can be undertaken in respect of such order. No revision can be undertaken, students, in respect of such order. I hope that all of you are clear with this one. Every one of you. So this is how the things has to be looked upon. Now, students, supposingly here the show cause notice, students, supposingly here show cause notice here was issued. The show cause notice, students, that was being there was in respect of what? Say item A. Item A. Question is, during the pendency, the CIT wants to also revise, wants to also disallow item B. Item B, which was not the matter of the original show cause notice, which was not the matter of the original show cause notice, then what, students? So during the pendency, the CIT wants to also disallow item B, which was not the matter of the original show cause notice. Then what? Then whether the CIT can revise item B of the AO's order as well. Item B of the AO's order as well, students. This is a landmark judgment which was there in Amitabh Bachchan's case, students. A landmark judgment in Mr. Amitabh Bachchan case. So please first write the question. During the pendency, the CIT wants to also disallow item B, which was not the matter of the original show cause notice. Then whether the CIT can revise item B of the AO's order as well. To that the Supreme Court has said it is yes. Students, Supreme Court has said it as what? Yes. What they have said is that the show cause notice that we are talking about it, is nothing but a general show cause notice. What is the show cause notice? Is nothing but a general show cause notice. And because that they are a general show cause notice, do you know then what happens in this case? They are a general show cause notice. The show cause notice, conterminous also, Priya, you can say, but maybe it is appropriate to say it for the CIT appeal. But yes, you can also use the word conterminous, but better to use it for CIT appeal, because now since we have got a judgment, so let's be relevant only to what has been given. That is better, but in logic, in that way, you have to argue. Yes, you can argue that way. But when you have to write the examination now, you have to actually then use what actually has been given in the judgment. That will give you more better marks in this case. So the show cause notice is nothing but a general show cause notice. The show cause notice does not in any way defines the scope of the assessment. The scope of the revision. Full stop. The SCN is given for providing the SSE and OBH. What is the full form of OBH? Opportunity of being heard. The SCN is given for providing the SSE and opportunity of being heard whenever for providing the SSE and opportunity of being heard, students. Whenever what? Sorry, we will delete the word wherever and please write before. Before an adverse order is sought to be passed. Adverse. So this is adverse order sought to be passed. An adverse order is sought to be passed. Therefore, if there is any new ground which is found by the CIT on which it wants to exercise its revisionary power, then it needs to issue another show cause notice so as to provide the assessee and OBH, opportunity of being heard, in respect of that item. I.R.O is in respect of that item. So that is what it is. If supposedly, if he wants to go with B, definitely can go with B. Not an issue. The only factor is that what, students? The only factor over here is that he has to be very careful on one thing. That before obviously he also wants to disallow that, no? Even B he wants to disallow. So one thing is there, students, that anything that you have to disallow, before that you will give an opportunity of being heard. This thing you also have learned in the rectification proceedings. This thing, students, you have also learned in the rectification proceedings. Just now we did rectification, no? There in rectification also the same point was referred. What was that? If the rectification order that is to be passed has the effect of enhancing the liability of the SSC, has the effect of what? Enhancing the liability of the SSC, then in that particular case, what we have said, students? Then in that particular case, yes, we have said that the rectification could be definitely can be pursued, but provided the SSC has been given an opportunity before passing the rectification order. Same thing is happening over here also. This revision, students, which under 263, whenever a revision happens, it is going to definitely will impact the SSC, because that will disallow something which was allowed by the AO. This revision will disallow something which was allowed by the AO, and definitely it will have an adverse effect. So whenever, if you want to go for another particular disallowance during the same proceedings, students, if you want to go for another disallowance, you are free to go with that. Absolutely not an issue. But the only factor that you have to consider over here is this, that you will have to then issue another show cause notice on that point also, so that the SSC has been given sufficient opportunity of being heard, so that he can also represent his case. Now, students, with this particular point, in this case, herein, one point which emerges over here is about, be careful, here also there is DOPM. In the case of section 263, students, in the case of section 263 also there is a DOPM. And what is this DOPM? The doctrine of partial merger. The doctrine of partial merger, students. And so far as the doctrine of partial merger is concerned, students, so far as the doctrine of partial merger is concerned, you can see for yourself. So if any item of the AO's order, students, what does it imply? What does it imply, students? You can write above if you want. I'll dictate it. What is that? If any item of the AO's order, if any items of the AO order is made as a subject matter of an appeal, any item of the AO's order has been made as a subject matter of an appeal, as a subject matter of appeal, then the jurisdiction of the CIT, the revisionary jurisdiction of the CIT, the revisionary jurisdiction of the CIT will be restricted only in respect of any other matter, not considered in the appeal, Why, friends? Now, students, over here, if you see very carefully, last is the order would be passed. Now, the most important particular aspect of the order pass is the time limit. What is the time limit of passing the order? So if you see over here, the time limit to pass the order is 2 years from the end of the financial year in which what? In which the order, these are the important word, order sought to be revised. Order sought to be revised was passed. Underline this word, order sought to be revised was passed. 2 years from the end of the financial year in which the order sought to be revised was passed. What was written in rectification? In that 154 order? What was written over there? If you compare this with 154 now you will find out in 154, that's a comparison. What they have written is that 4 years, the order, rectification order, RO I am writing rectification order, 4 years from the end of the financial year in which the order sought to be rectified was passed. Sought to be rectified was passed. So therefore, this is a sought to be rectified. Again, that same particular phrase has been used. What therefore these mean, students? This is a very important point. Let's have a look over here, students. One small case study, because this is also an important one in this context. So I'm just putting a case study over here. For the order, you can write, give the header if you want to write, order sought to be rectified or revised. Order sought to be rectified or revised. Suppose we show the AO has passed the order under 143.3. AO has passed the order under 143. And that order, students, was in respect of A, B and C. That order, students, was in respect of what? A, B and C. Why, students? Now, subsequently, students, herein 147 was done by the AO. So AO did what? 147. And then in 147, it is only on such income. Students, such income, 147. Remember, we discussed this particular point. 147 is only on such income. And this was, students, on A only. A. Fine. Now, this is for relevant AY. Just write with AY also. Relevant AY. This case 22-23. 22-23. Now the CIT students primarily on. Now this was AY. This 147 students, if you see, 147 if you see was done on 1st of April, 1st of June 2020, 1st of June 2023, 1st of June 2023 or 1st of August 2023 students. Okay, so CIT wants to revise the order of A in respect of be careful, students. In respect of item B. Item B. So therefore the question to all of you is, now that he wants to revise on item B. Okay. He also should revise in respect of item B. Be careful. So if he wants to revise in respect of item B, students, in this regard, the 2 years term limit that we are talking about it, the 2 years term limit, students, that we are talking about it, will be considered from the date of original order, 2 years time limit, will be considered from the date of the original order or the date of the reassessed order. So, Shruti, what is your take? The 2 years term limit we are going to consider from the date of the original order or the date of the reassessed order. CIT wants to revise the order of AO, not A, order of AO. Please write this AO. Order of AO in respect of item B. In respect of item B. So that 2 years time limit, students, will be considered from the date of the original order, students, or from the date of the reassessed order, students. What is your take on this? Clear, students? From the date of the original order or reassessed order? Yeah. So over here, students, be careful. Yeah. In this context, you have to be very careful, students, on this part. See, what he wants to revise in the CIT, what he wants to revise? CIT has to revise B. In the case of the original order A, the original order A, B, C was there. In the reassessed order, only A was there. Only A was there. Whereas the CIT wants to revise B. And because that the CIT wants to revise B, students, therefore it has to be considered from the original order. It has to be considered from the original order. And I am telling you, students, one important point. Herein, the chances are very high that this would have been a time barred case now. The chances are very high, students, that this would be a time barred case now. Do you all agree? And that exactly is the point. So absolutely a high chances that, students, it would be a time barred case in this regard. This is how, students, it would be considered in this context. I hope that every one of you are clear with this one, students, in this particular context. Fine. That exactly is the point, students. So therefore, students, we are done with this completely in this regard. So students, this is what it is in this context. Are you all through with this one now? So obviously, because if you see from 147, maybe yes, 2 years time limit is left. But if you see from assessment year 22-23, that AMA 22-23, if you see that 2 years is already over. So if you are talking from AMA 2023 plus 2 years, maximum is how much? In this case, whatever it be, order was passed in that AY itself, or maybe it was passed, whatever it be. So we just have to see from that particular perspective, friends. And that is how the things has to be looked upon. I hope that every one of you are now clear with this one. Same is also with that 4 years thing. Chances are very high that 4 years, when that order was passed, original order was passed, from that 4 years is already over. But yes, in between there may be some reassessment that may have taken place for that AY. In between, some reassessment may have taken place. So if you talk from reassessment date, from that date, if you are taking 4 years, then one may say that yes, the time limit is available. One may definitely say that the time limit would be available, students. So therefore, in that particular context, in this particular context, this is how things has to be looked upon. So, students, in this case, we are done with this particular point. All the case study, you just ensure to refer the 263. And now in 264, students, there are only a couple of points which I just need to tell you, and that will end up this important revisionary proceedings. So, students, just pay attention to this particular point. Students, I just told you that 263 revisionary proceedings is for whose benefit? It is for department's benefit, means the department, the CIT representing the department, they being aggrieved. CIT is aggrieved, students, in this case, and therefore there is 263. CIT is aggrieved, students, and therefore there is 263. That is, the department is aggrieved. We will say that, students. But in 264, what happens? This revision under 264. So obviously, students, just hold on. Whatever revision that will happen of 263, whatever revision, students, that is going to happen of section 263, that is going to be in the favor of the department, because department is aggrieved against the order of the AO. So any revision of the order of the AO, students, any revision of the order of the AO will be what? Any revision of the order of the AO, students, what we are going to say? Will be indeed will be benefiting. In any revision of the order of the AO under 263 will be benefiting whom? To the department. Under 263 we are doing the revision, because then the liability of the SSC is going to increase. And that is the reason why opportunity was necessary. But 264, what happens, students? Again, 264 is also a revisionary power of the commissioner, and that revisionary power of the commissioner under 264 is exercised on the order of the AO. That is exercised on what? On the order of the AO. Again, on the order of the AO. But in 264, students, what happens? In 264, students, what happens? So far as section 264 is concerned, that revision which the CIT will do on the order of the AO, that net effect of the revision, students, that net effect of the revision will be in the favor of the SSC. So supposingly in the AO's order it would have been disallowed, then if the CIT is doing the revision under section 264, if the CIT is doing the revision under section 264, then it will get allowed. Then what is going to happen, friends? It will then get allowed as reduction. I hope that all of you are clear with this one. So this is what is the impact of the revisionary power under section 264. The revisionary power, students, under section 264. So therefore, the SSC definitely will be very happy. In a way, the SSC has got two remedies now, which you all know. One remedy is a remedy of the appeal, and the second remedy is the remedy of revision under 264. 264, students. One is what? Is the remedy of appeal. And what is the second remedy? The remedy of revision. To get the relief against the order of the AO, he can either go with the appeal remedy, which we have seen, CIT appeals, or he can go with this remedy under 264 by making an application to the commissioner. The question to all of you over here is this, students. The question to all of you over here is this. Can you exercise both the remedy? Means like this. Supposingly in the AO's order, AO has passed order A. In that AO's order, A, B, and C is there. In respect of item A, I want to go for appeal, and in respect of item B, I have to go for 264. So partially, some item I have to take it to appeal, and some item I want to take it to 264 for revision. Is this kind of a choice available to the SSC? Is this kind of a choice available to the SSC students? To that the answer is no. This kind of a choice, students, is not available to the SSC, which means that in the case of a revision, either you decide to go for appeal in entirety or you go for revision. But some in appeal and some in revision under 264, that option is not available. So what happens? Even for one matter, point number A, even for one matter, students, for point number A, if you go for an appeal, you then cannot go for revision. You means the SSC cannot go for revision on the other matter of the order, under section 264. That possibility or that door is now shut forever. If for one matter also you have gone for the appeal, for the other matter, the door is shut forever so far as section 264 is concerned. The door is shut forever so far as 264 is concerned. This is what this particular point says. What this point says? The commissioner shall not revise any order where appeal is pending before the CIT or ITAT, or at the time limit, or in this case, this is what it is. So you can just write in this case one note. So just put a note over here. That is, if the SSC has gone for an appeal in respect of any matter, yes, I am. In respect of any matter in the AO's order, then in respect of the other matter, the remedy of underline the word other matter, the remedy of revision under section 264 cannot be if the SSC has gone for an appeal in respect of any matter in the AO order, then in respect of the other matter, the remedy of revision under section 264 cannot be applied. Okay, so students, this is what it is, and that is what, students, you just need to know, and that is all of it, students. With that, we are done with this revision, students. Tomorrow, students, I'll meet you at 11 o'clock then. 11 o'clock, students, I'll see you tomorrow. That should be all. Okay, so 11 to 6 is what we are going to meet up for the tomorrow session. See you then, students, tomorrow. What I'm going to deal with it, students, would be one, I think the small theory which is there, which I'll take it up now last. What is the theory? The DRP, recovery, and AAR. These three items are there: DRP, recovery, and AAR. And then thereafter, the surrogate taxes, cooperative society, and some theory of international taxation, which we have to deal with it. Okay, some portion of the theory I understand there will still would be left, for which I already have my lectures in the YouTube, which I'll just share with all of you for that remaining small portion of the theory, which I'm already having it in this case. So that will render the things quite comfortably. You all will be placed comfortably. Okay, see you then, students, tomorrow at 11. Take care.